Accessing library computer data.
Hello and welcome to what would be considered a retro review in my review/overview of the original starter set that came out way back in 2013. The game has come a long way in terms of ships and upgrades and has mostly been for the better, I think. As I only started playing Attack Wing around the yesterday's Enterprise OP, I was not around when these cards may have been popular in the metagame, so I do not have much historical context for them and mostly just viewing them from the game today and their playability. So let's take a look at what's in the starter set, what cards have aged well, and what's mostly been left behind in the space dock. As custom in the starter set, you get all the necessary components to get going and play a game right out of the box, without needing to buy extra expansions. You get one U.S.S. Enterprise-D / Galaxy class ship template, a Galaxy class model in the baby blue, and a maneuver dial. One I.K.S. Maht-H'A / Vorcha class ship template, a Vorcha class model in that really odd but dull bright green, and a maneuver dial. One I.R.W. Kazara / Dederdex ship template, a model in probably the best painted original ships in a nice dark green, and a maneuver dial for it. For captains, there are 2 Picard Id Tokens, 2 Torvith Id Tokens, 2 William T. Riker Id Tokens, 2 Nudok Id Tokens, 2 Federation Captain Id Tokens, 2 Romulan Captain Id Tokens, 2 Klingon Captain Id Tokens, 3 Axillary Power Tokens, 1 Battle Station Token, 2 Cloaked Tokens, 3 Critical Hit Tokens, 12 Disable Tokens, 5 Evade Tokens, 1 Scan Token, 10 Shield Tokens, 6 Target Lock Tokens, and 3 sets labeled A, B, and C, 12 Mission Tokens, 1 Planet Token, 1 Minefield Token, 5 Attack and 5 Defense Dice, 1 Maneuver Set, 1 Range Ruler, 6 Objective Tokens, and 1 Damage Deck. Now let's take a look at the ships and the upgrades in the pack. The first ship in the starter set is the Iks Mata, which is a Vorcha class Klingon ship with 5 attack, 1 agility, 5 hull, and 3 shields, and a forward 90-degree firing arc, with what will become the standard cloaking action bar of Evade, Target Lock, Cloak, and Sensor Echo. The upgrade bar has Tech, Weapon, and 2 crew slots for 28 points. The ability is any ship attacking you at range 1 rolls 1 less attack die. While I cannot say that I've seen this card a lot in gameplay at my venue, I think the Vorchas in general are certainly a viable ship to run competitively, and the ability on the ship to take away your opponent's range 1 bonus is actually not too bad, and is a decent upgrade slot, so I think it's still a viable ship to play. The generic Vorcha loses the ability, a shield token, and 1 of the crew slots for 22 points. I covered my thoughts on the generic Vorcha when it was reprinted with the 2017 starter, and the point cost definitely helped the playability of the generic Vorcha, and overall I think they are still really good generics to run and are viable. The maneuver dial in the Vorcha class is pretty standard, with the hard 3 turns being red and having the 3 coming bout. It also has white 2 hard turns and a 4 straight, so the ship is decently maneuverable with decent speed. Generic dial, nothing really special about it. The second ship is the U.S.S. Enterprise-D, which is a Galaxy class starship with 4 attack, 1 agility, 5 hull, and 4 shields, with a 90-degree primary firing arc and a rear secondary firing arc. Standard Federation action bar with Evade, Target Lock, Scan, and Battle Stations with 2 weapon and 3 crew slots for 28 points. Instead of making a normal attack with your primary weapon, you may fire in any direction at range 1 and 2 with 3 attack dice. I really do not like the slot layout on the ship, as it lacks a tech slot, and it really does not need the 2 weapon slots, especially with the 360-degree fire. Especially now, there are some nice tech options that cannot natively go on the ship, but the ability is pretty good that gives a ship that is not very maneuverable some coverage when a ship is out of its primary firing arc, which they will be often with the lack of maneuverability and only the primary 90 degrees. It is still probably the best or second best Enterprise-D, maybe only being outdone by the 2017 starter D with the native tech slot. The generic Dederdex loses a shield, a crew slot for 25 points, which got a 3-point reduction from the original 28. Even with a loss of a shield and a crew slot, I don't mind the generic Dederdex, as you're probably going to want to stay cloaked, so the loss of the shield doesn't really hurt in my opinion, and the point reduction I think makes them a viable generic to run with some weapon upgrades and maybe interface generator for the tech slot. The last named ship is the I.R.W. Kazara, which is a Dederdex class ship with 3 attack, 2 agility, 6 hull, and 4 shields, with a 90-degree primary firing arc. The cloaking action bar with Evade, Target Lock, Cloak, and Sensor Echo with a tech, weapon, and 3 crew slots for 30 points. The ability is, if you initiate an attack while cloaked, add +1 attack die. This is probably still one of the better Dederdex class ships, as it does not need an action or require you to take hull damage to get the extra dice. It has a really nice upgrade bar, and with some of the weapon upgrades that have come out recently for the Dederdex class to boost its weapons, I wouldn't have actually minded another native weapon slot compared to a crew slot. Again, this is probably still one of the better Dederdex class ships out there. The generic Dederdex loses a shield, a crew slot for 25 points, which got a 3-point reduction from the original 28. Even with a loss of a shield and a crew slot, I don't mind the generic Dederdex, as you're probably going to want to stay cloaked, so the loss of the shield doesn't really hurt in my opinion, and the point reduction I think makes them a viable generic to run with some weapon upgrades and maybe interface generator for the tech slot. The Diderdix maneuver dial is pretty good in my opinion, with white turns at 2 and 3 and the only red maneuver being a red 2 reverse. They are pretty maneuverable for such a large ship with both the turns at 2 and 3 and the reverse, so it's a pretty good dial in my opinion. The first captain in the pack is Jean-Luc Picard, who is a skill 9 captain with an elite talent slot and costs 6 points. Each round, you may perform one of the following actions as a free action: evade, target lock, scan, or battle stations. You may use this action if your ship does not have it in the action bar. I'm not really sure what I can say about this captain that already hasn't been said. Picard is still very widely used and is certainly one of the best captains in the entire game, with the ability to give actions to ships that do not have these actions in the action bar. He's an excellent captain, probably should be considered in every Federation build and even cross-factioned onto any number of ships. I've seen him used on the bio ships to get that battle stations. He's just a really great captain and certainly holds up in the game today. The second captain is William T. Riker, who is a captain skill 6 and costs 4 points. Action: if you attack this round at range 1, roll 2 attack dice. Any hits or critical result damages the attacking ship as normal, even if your ship is destroyed by their attack. The attacking ship does not roll any defense dice. This is not a very good version of Riker. Hathaway Riker is a much better captain, especially on smaller ships. And then Pegasus and Hood Rikers are really good crew and are much better versions, so I see no reason to run this captain. As it takes an action, it only works if you're being attacked at range 1 and can only be used once per round. I could maybe see this ability working better now with time tokens instead of an action. I really do not like abilities that you have to take an action and then your opponent can choose not to do something, like attack you at range 1. But with the action, this version is really not worth running. The only Romulan captain in the pack is Torith, who is a Romulan captain with a captain skill of 7, an elite talent slot, and costs 4 points. When attacking, you may convert one hit result into a critical result. Still one of the higher Romulan captains in terms of captain skill, with only 2 other captains natively surpassing her. As for the ability, I think it's alright to be able to get a critical, especially when you want to use something that can bypass your opponent's shields, like hypothermic charge. But I wish that did not come at the expense of a hit, maybe if it was a battle station to a critical or a blank to a critical or something like that. But I think she is someone that you could bring along and not be worse for wear, but I think probably not an everyday Romulan captain. The last named captain is the Klingon captain Nudak, who is a skill 5 and costs 3 points. When attacking, you may convert one battle station result into a hit. Not a bad ability to get some native battle station conversion when most Klingon ships do not have it, and I think a bit better version of Taurus' ability. So overall, still not a bad captain. There are better ones out there, but I think he's still someone that could be used today. Then there's a generic captain for each of the factions, so 1 Klingon, 1 Romulan, and 1 Federation. They're all skill 1 with no ability and do not cost 8 points. Nothing really to say about them. I do appreciate that there are generic captains, but if you have collected any number of ships, then you have more generic captains than you know what to do with. The first elite talent in the star set is Engage, which is a Federation elite talent that costs 3 points. Action: if you perform an green maneuver this round, you may immediately perform an additional green maneuver of your choice. Place an auxiliary power token beside your ship. This card may have been more useful at the beginning of the game, but it has been replaced by better ways to get extra maneuvers, like Admiral Force, which does not require using an auxiliary and has a lot more flexibility in terms of the maneuver you perform before and afterwards with it. Also, Picard 6 is a better way to spend an action to get extra movement. So I do not think this card is really worth running nowadays. The second elite talent is Counterattack, which is a Romulan elite talent that costs 3 points. Action: if your ship's shields or hull are damaged by a ship in your forward firing arc this round, you may immediately make 1 free attack against that ship. You may not make this attack if your ship is destroyed. I really do not like these types of cards where you have to use an action in case something happens to your ship. Same thing with Captain Riker there. It can be useful if you're the only ship left, then they'll be forced to target your ship. But I cannot really see a reason to run it now, especially since they have to be in your primary firing arc as well. So I just do not think this is a really good Romulan elite talent. The first tech in the pack is the Advanced Weapon System, which is Klingon and costs 5 points. When attacking, you may disable its upgrade before rolling any dice to keep your Cloaked token from flipping to its red side. I still actually don't mind this tech upgrade. There's a much better version now of it with the Klingon cloaking device from the Kelvin faction pack, but this card could still be useful to fight your opponent but still keep your cloak. A lot of Klingon ships and upgrades have abilities that require you to be cloaked to gain a bonus in attack die or quality, so this can still be useful but a tad expensive upgrade. The second tech upgrade is Tractor Beam, which is Klingon and costs 3 points. Action: target a ship at range 1 and roll 2 attack dice. For every hit result, that ship rolls -1 defense die against your next attack. I'm not sure why you'd ever want to run this nowadays. First of all, criticals don't even work, so only have a 3/8 chance of doing the same thing as a scan token. I guess the scan token isn't on a ton of Klingon ships natively, but with something like Klingon Helmsman nowadays, where you place 2 time tokens to perform a scan action as a free action, I do not see why you'd want to spend the 3 points and use the tech slot on this now. The final tech upgrade in the pack is Artificial Quantum Singularity, which is a Romulan tech that costs 3 points. While your ship is cloaked, you may roll your defense dice in spite of the presence of an opposing ship's scan token. This card still might get some play, as it is useful against something like Enterprise-A, or a ship with Beta Hirogen on it, where it gives you that extra scan token if you perform a scan action. So while it's not something they want every time, I do still see some uses for it against builds or ships that rely heavily on stacking scan tokens. The first weapon in the starter set is Photon Torpedoes, which is Federation upgrade and costs 5 points. Has an attack value of 5 and has range of 2 to 3. Attack. Target lock. Spend your target lock and disable this card to perform this attack. You may convert one of your battle station results into a critical. You may fire this weapon from your forward or rear firing arcs. I don't really know what I can say about the early Photon Torpedoes. That has not been said already in numerous discussions and games. Other than that, I do not think they are very good and are way too action intensive to use when you're probably better off just to keep your target lock as quality when you fire your primary weapon at your opponent instead of spending it and only being able to convert one battle station into a critical. The second Federation weapon is Antimatter Mines, which costs 5 points. Attack. Discard this card and place a minefield token in your rear firing arc at range 1. If you place this token on a ship or if a ship enters the minefield, roll 4 attack dice. Any hits or criticals damage to the ship normally. The affected ship does not roll any defense dice. I don't think they're as good as the Romulan Cloaked Mines, as your ship has to enter the minefield rather than just be within range 1 of it, even though it has 1 more attack die than the Romulan ones. And it can damage your ship, unlike the Romulan ones, which just damage your opponent's ship. These may be useful in something like the Drive OP or a Custom OP where you're in a race against other ships, but for most games I can't say that I recommend using them. The third weapon is another copy of Photon Torpedoes, but this time they're Klingon and still cost 5 points. Attack, Target Lock. Spend your Target Lock and disable this card to perform this attack. If fired from a Vorcha class ship, add +1 attack die. Even with the +1 attack die from being used on a Vorcha class ship, I still feel you're better off keeping the target lock as quality with your primary weapon, as you already have the 5 dice, especially since you are missing the native battle stations on this ship. The last weapon in the set is Plasma Torpedoes, which are Romulan, cost 5 points, and can be fired from range 1 to 2. Attack, Target Lock. Spend your Target Lock and disable this card to perform this attack. You may reroll all your blank results 1 time. You may fire this weapon from your forward or rear firing arcs. This may be my favorite secondary weapon from the starter, which is not saying a heck of a lot, but it does have some inherent quality with being able to reroll your blanks. Still not a great secondary weapon in today's game, but I can see it being used on Romulan ships that have a low primary weapon value. Now, onto the crew. The first crew is Geordi LaForge, who is a Federation crew who is unique and costs 4 points. If your ship has a scan token beside it, you may force one ship you attack this round to reroll 1 defense die of your choice. An okay ability on ships you want to take a scan action on, such as with the Enterprise-D, is you get the bonus attack die. But I feel it's a tad expensive, considering that they could reroll an evade and just get another evade. Unlikely, but it could happen. So really, you're not doing anything. The second crew is Conmel, whose Klingon costs 4 points and is unique. Action. If your ship is not cloaked, you may repair 1 shield token. Again, an okay ability to repair a shield token, but Klingon ships are probably going to stay cloaked for the most part to activate most of their abilities, which rely on being cloaked. And 4 points for an action is probably too expensive to be playable in today's game. Next up, we have Worf, who's unique, costs 3 points, and is a Federation upgrade. Disable this card to reroll your entire attack roll. You must reroll all of the dice and keep the results of the second roll. An okay way to get some quality with your dice if you roll nothing with your first roll, as you're probably only going to use this if you know or 1 hit with your dice, but at 3 points he is more reasonably priced. But another card that'd be greatly improved with the use of time tokens instead of disable, as it's not a guarantee that you're going to roll any better the second time. The next crew we have is Data, who's unique and costs 3 points. Action. Place 2 evade tokens beside your ship and reduce your total attack dice by 2 this round. You cannot perform an evade action this round, even as a free action. I actually do not mind this ability that much. It's not as good as Sulu from the Tiny Prize, but you do get 1 more evade than you normally would get if you just took the evade action. I'd probably only ever use this if I do not have the option of fire, as it reduces your attack dice by 2. So it's still not a great card, but probably one of the more useful crew from this pack still. The last Federation crew is Miles O'Brien, who costs 2 points and is unique. Action, discard this card to disable one upgrade on another ship at range 1 to 3. This ability may be used against a ship that is cloaked. It is really nice that he only costs 2 points and can target a cloaked ship or a ship with have raised shields. But I'm not really sure a discard is worth only a disable on your opponent's ship, especially with some builds being able to take extra actions. Now it can be more of an annoyance rather than actually something that can be useful. The first Romulan crew in the starter is Navek, who is unique and costs 2 points. Action, disable one of your active shields in order to add +1 attack die this round. This is not really worth the action and disabling of one of the shields. Just to add an attack die, as you get no quality off of that. You are much better off using an action to get the target lock, then you have the quality with your dice. I can't really see any reason why you'd run Navek, and you're probably cloaked anyway, so you do not have a shield to disable. The last Klingon crew is Clag, who is unique and costs 1 point. Action, if your ship is not cloaked, disable all your remaining shields and target a ship at range 1 to 2 that is not cloaked and has no active shields. Discard Clag and one crew upgrade of your choice on the target ship. Kind of a Klingon version of Miles O'Brien, who does what I wish, that he discarded your opponent's upgrade and costs less, but is a lot more restrictive, that you have to disable all your shields and your opponents cannot have any shields. Probably more useful now as a cheap discard crew for other effects, or as a crew for core to get quality on your attack dice. The last crew and card in the pack is Bokra, who is a unique Romulan crew and costs 1 point. Action, if your ship is not cloaked, disable all your remaining shields and target a ship at range 1 to 2 that is not cloaked and have no active shields. Discard Bokra and one crew upgrade of your choice on the target ship. Exact same ability as Clag, I feel the exact same way about him. Probably more useful as a cheap crew discard than anything else now. Thank you so much for watching my review/overview of the original Star set from all the way back in 2013. It's been fun to go back and see what the game started and how the style of the cards and the meta has changed since then. And what may have been playable to good then is barely playable in competitive games nowadays. There are still some cards in here that are really playable and still very high on what I consider the best cards in the game, with Picard 9 being at the top of the list. And then some other cards that are still playable with the named ships, Toreth, Nudok, and then there are some cards that are better left to be forgotten, like Force Arm Torpedoes, even though they've continued to make them for a very long time, exactly the same, until the introduction of time tokens. You can subscribe to the IR.W channel to keep up to date as we make our way from the beginning of the game to the present, and hit the notification bell to be notified when a new video is posted. You can find me on Facebook at the IR.W channel, where I post mostly Star Trek attack wing related content, and you can support the channel on Patreon to help me make more videos. As I was not around at the start of the game, be sure to let me know some of the ways that these cards were utilized back in the day, and if you disagree with me on a card, or find a better use for one, be sure to let me know in the comments. Thank you again for watching, and I shall see you next time.